Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Homestand, the official podcast of the Kansas City Royals. I'm your host, Carrie Lippert-Gillespie, and I'm excited to have my guest today, Gene Watson. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Carrie. Thanks for having me.
I have to read your title because it's very long. I couldn't remember it. So you are the Vice President of Major League Scouting and Assistant GM. There you go. That's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful. It's a business card.
It is a business card, which I've heard you love business cards.
I do like business cards. I since I was a young kid, had an affection for them, and I trade out a lot of business cards. Emily Penning gives me a hard time about it because to me, you know, all the airports and airplanes and hotels and ballparks, you're constantly meeting new people.
You are.
To me, a stranger is just a friend you haven't met. And some of the most important people in my life are people I've met on airplanes and hotel lobbies. And so, I like business cards.
What about the digital age of it all? You know, you could follow someone on Twitter, email them, whatever it is, but you still prefer the card, huh?
I love the nostalgia
paper?
Of the paper, yes.
The paper aspect of it. All right. Well, I think that's a fun little fact about you there, and I would love to have your business card after this. I'm so happy that you're here to chat with us today. You're one of those people that whenever I see you, you are always like saying hi, happy, but you always look happy to be there. Like you always look just happy to be wherever you are. And those kind of people I think are like sunshine personified. Yeah. And that's always you.
Well, I just love working in this game. It was an extremely hard road for me early in my career. And just to get to this point in my career and just to be able to work with the people I work with every day. And I don't take one day for granted. I love Kansas City. I love the Royals organization. I love the people. I actually left for 1 year in 2021 and went to the Angels, and I just felt like part of my soul was gone. And so to be able to come back, I view this opportunity as an even greater opportunity because I've been given a second chance at something that I never thought I'd get.
That's beautiful. I love that. Let's talk some first about where you're from and growing up in college. You played in college.
I did. I grew up in Temple, Texas, and really more of a football background.
Yep.
And then I walked on at St. Edward's University for 1 year in Austin, Texas. And then after 1 year, I was that guy that was kind of a late bloomer that got a little bit better every year. And so after 1 year at St. Edward's, I told myself, if I'm not going to be able to play this game, I want to work in it. And I looked at the University of Texas at Arlington, and I told myself I'll go walk on, and if I make it, great. If I don't, I'll go to work for the Rangers in some capacity, and both happened. I made the team, and then in the summers I started working on the tarp crew and the grounds crew and the ticket office, and then in 1991 I moved into the home clubhouse, being around the players, and that's where my affection for players and player evaluation and team building really came from. I was allowed to be around Nolan Ryan and Bobby Valentine and Jose Canseco, Rafael Palmeiro, so many great players that it was just something that I fell in love with right away.
That is incredible that you started on the tarp crew and now you are sitting here as the VP in a Major League Baseball team. That's insane. Like, let's all just soak that in for a second. And it's proof that you got to do what you're doing, be the best that you can at it, and let the steps take you where it will.
Yeah, and that was really what drove me, was like on the really hard days, I would tell myself, this is going to pay off in some way. This is going to, and when you look back at it, the whole journey, I have no idea how this happened. I really don't. But I thank God it did.
If you had to write a playbook, I couldn't do it probably.
Right. Well, I had a guy one time when I told him, one of my bosses, when I was trying to get into scouting, told me I was living a pipe dream, and that's going to be the name of my book, Pipe Dream.
I cannot wait. I will order an advance copy. Can we get it going right here? I will read that in a heartbeat. You mentioned some of those big name guys that you just got to be around. You weren't even coaching with them or anything like that, but you just got to be in their presence. There's something to be said about just being around people who are at that high level and just watching them go through their day, what their habits are, how they carry themselves. Do you think some of that rubbed off on you, even when you were just, clubhouse staff? Yeah,
I think I've always been very competitive, and you're always striving to be the very best at whatever it is. I'm a really competitive guy. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a fighter in that way, in that if I think something's right, I'm going to push for it as hard as I can and fight for it. And that's the one thing, I mean, for regardless of what it is, Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, Rihanna at the Super Bowl. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I mean, just like the talent that people have in this world, and when they get to put it on display and just be incredible at what they do. It's really, really amazing to me.
Yeah, it's inspiring for sure. So tell us how you made the jump into scouting, because that's a long cry from being at the ticket booth.
Yeah, I when I moved home, we had our son in June of '93. I moved home, and I started a select program back when there were no 17, 18-year-old programs.
Okay.
This is,
You
early,
just started one.
I started one. UT Arlington actually gave me their old uniforms. We were called the Syntex Mavericks. And I had a few players. Bobby Witt Jr.'s dad actually helped me as well. And I had a few players help me fund it. So I went and got all the 15, 16s that were kind of below the radar, hidden talents. And we went 47-13. And that Christmas Eve, the Astros called and offered me an associate scouting position, which is basically working for free for 3 years.
Oh,
and so, so I basically invested. I would get in my car on Tuesdays and Fridays and just drive and hit every high school and college game I could within 100 miles of the house. And it was pretty taxing on the finances for a young family, but I wouldn't change one thing about
Gene,
it.
that's insane.
Yeah, I wouldn't change one thing.
You're a hard worker.
I try to be.
I can tell from that. And in your head, were you thinking when you started that this is going to lead to a job in baseball? Or what were you you were just thinking, I got to do this?
I was hoping. Yeah, I was hoping. I was very visible. I would always be at University of Texas, Texas A&M, Baylor, and then on Tuesday nights I would hit some of the smaller high schools. And then in November of '96, the Padres called. Eddie Epstein from the Padres called and offered me a professional scouting job, which at the time was new to the game. Eddie was one of the pioneers of analytics. So I've never worked one day without analytics. Yeah. And so the analytics and the pro side, it was basically still forming. So I was on the front end of a lot of that. And that 97 to 02 were really difficult years, because I was a young guy in major league ballparks, and to a lot of the veteran scouts, I was taking one of their spots. And so it was hard. You could have stuck me in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and said, find your way back, and it probably would have been easier for me.
Wow.
But all part of the growing process.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I want to ask you what the term scout actually means, because a single organization has tons of scouts, and they are scouting in different countries, different levels. You have college scouts, high school scouts, other team scouts where you're scouting guys from other major league teams or other guys in the minor leagues. So kind of break down in layman's terms what a scout position is.
Yeah, so it's basically player evaluation.
Okay.
And there are different levels of it. You have your international, which really started like 12 years old.
Oh my gosh.
They're offering money at 14, 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
And then you've got your high school, junior college 4-year, and then you've got your pro scouts. We have minor league scouts. We have scouts that scout the major leagues. We have scouts that just advance for the teams that we're going to play in the coming weeks. And so you've got all those different variables of information and levels of scouting. And really the most important part of the player evaluation is history with the player and that continual gathering of information on the field, off the field, with data, with technology. And I wake up every day and try to turn over a stone to find a player to help the Kansas City Royals win a World Series. And that's really all it is. It's filtering players every day, and things change quickly.
Yeah.
You take an injury on the field, a player gets a release you didn't expect. So you're constantly gathering information, communicating with your scouting staffs, and making the best day-to-day decisions you can for the organization.
Now, you say the analytics and the hitting, throwing, catching, all those things are important, but you mentioned the personal side of things too, the relationship you have with them and what a person is like. So I would think some of that comes down to this person is quieter in the clubhouse, or this person is very outspoken and sarcastic and talks a lot and things like that. So I'm sure that is also information that's very valuable to the team as well, to see how they will come into the clubhouse and mesh as well.
That's right. And you may have a player that on the outside you have all the information on that it may not be working well where they are, but hey, we bring this guy in with our support structure. And Drew Waters is a prime example of that. Drew played with my son in the minor leagues, and so I had a track record with him out of the draft and watched him all through. And when you started to look at the way the Braves were shaping up in the outfield, he began to look like an excess player to them. And at Kauffman Stadium, it's so difficult to play center field there that with Michael, with Lorenzo, with Drew, we're 2 and 3 years ahead of identifying that potential player for our stadium, because it's a difficult place to play center field. But that was a situation where we looked at him and said, hey, our support structure is one that he can really, really thrive in, and that's what we're hoping for.
That's incredible. And there's so many, things that are, as you said, moving parts, but there's only so much you can look at and pick from and say, this is probably what's going to happen, but it might not happen.
That's right. And you have to break down every piece of information. I'm really big about pouring into the players and making them understand that we believe in you. And I'll even throw a nugget out, hey, can't wait to see you in the All-Star game, or I've been trying to get my hands on you for 5 years, just to lift them up and build them up and make them feel comfortable. Because oftentimes when players come from other organizations, they're not looking at it like the Royals wanted us. They're looking at it like that team didn't want me. And so there's a psychology to that, and keeping the players' confidence level up and just building momentum to help them reach their ceiling as players.
Yeah. How do you keep them all straight? Because I would just get, there's so many. I mean, especially if you're talking about 12-year-olds, 14, 15-year-olds, all the way up to guys that are already in the bigs and you're scouting for that. How do you keep everyone straight?
Yeah, it's difficult. And you got to have really good people underneath you, and you've got to let them do their jobs. And just those buckets of players, as I like to call them, they there's a lot, and you just have to connect the timeline of the player as an amateur to a college player to a professional player, and a lot of guys get better, and you got to let guys get better. So it's just staying on top of all of them. Yeah.
And you're managing other people too that are doing other scouting things. So you're also, while scouting and analytics is really, what you're passionate about, it sounds like, you have other people that are scouting beneath you, and you need to manage them, teach them how to be better scouts as well, I'm assuming.
And we have an unbelievable staff. We have a 12-man pro staff that a lot of them played at the major league level. A lot of them were college coaches. So it's a really, really honor to be able to wake up and work with those guys every day.
Yeah, and they're looking at you as a leader and as an example of, I want to be doing what Gene's doing someday, maybe. And now that you are where you are, you can see all those steps that you took that got you to where you are.
Right.
Let's talk about some of those steps. What has been some of the beauty in it along the way? You said there were some hard parts, and all of the the best things have those.
Yeah. So, when I was with the Padres, I really a difficult time, because, they basically gave me a radar gun and a stopwatch and said, go get them. And all I was really doing was comping the players to what I knew of the Ranger players working in the clubhouse, which was a very talented team. And so I was let go by the Padres after the 99 season, and literally like an hour later, I get a call from the Atlanta Braves and Dayton Moore, and they were just starting a pro department. So they brought me on board, and I was there for 3 years working under Dayton, and continued to evolve and grow and build out pro departments and see how other teams did things and their processes, and tried to pull the very best of it and stay away from things that didn't seem to work. And so in 2002, other organizations had let a lot of veteran scouts go, and so I was let go again. So I'd been fired 2 times in 5 years.
Yeah.
And the Florida Marlins, I was almost out of the game. I was going to go to work for the Ryan family. I was working at the University of Texas, and the Marlins called and offered me a part-time position, and we won the World Series at the end of that season in 2003, and everything kind of took off from that point.
Yeah. And you have to go through that in order to, maybe it's a new perspective shift that you have, or you learn something, or it's just you get the lows so that you can appreciate the highs. But looking back at it now, it all makes sense, doesn't it?
I'll tell you a quick story. And before, if everybody remembers the Yankee-Red Sox series in 2003 when Zimmer and Pedro got into the fight.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
So that night, my boss and I were going to dinner, and I said, hey, DJ, I have no money. And he goes, what do you mean? He goes, no, there's an ATM inside. I'm like, Dan Jennings. And I'm like, Dan, I have we're broke.
Literally no
we're
money.
Broke.
Yeah.
And that was professional, rock bottom. He gave me $100, and we went on to win the World Series, and I went full time and everything. That was like the rock bottom moment of my professional career. And we win the World Series 2 weeks later, and everything kind of just moves up from there. But
do you ever just sit back and you're just like, what is life? Like, it happens so fast and it changes so fast, and you're just like, 2 months ago, I had no dollars in my bank account. Here I am, on the mountain.
Yeah.
How do you just process
it
all?
Just stay humble.
Yeah.
Just stay humble, and I don't take one day for granted. My wife's been battling soft tissue sarcoma cancer for 12 years. She wasn't supposed to make it 5.
Oh my gosh.
And with the amazing MD Anderson in cancer research, she's been alive 12 and doing well. And so we just had great perspective in our life, not to get too far out in front of things, and to enjoy every day and make the most of every day. And life's hard, but you keep fighting, and if you do, you're going to be blessed with a lot of things.
You mentioned your wife. Is she an inspiration to you?
She's unbelievable. She's a rock star, Melanie, and she's been a inspiration to so many people across the state of Texas, in the city of Houston. They call her a medical miracle every time we're at MD Anderson, and I wouldn't be anywhere without her. I can tell you that.
Yeah. You know, baseball's not, you can't do it yourself. So having your wife, your family, kids, all that stuff is so important, I'm sure, to keeping you grounded. But you're also trying to manage being a husband and a father while trying to be at the height of your career. What's that like?
It's hard at times, but what has been unbelievable is the way the Royals allow you to be a husband first, a father first. And I mean, if you go around the front office, everybody's been married an extremely long time. All of our kids are family.
Yeah.
Our kids have basically grown up together and communicate via social media together and get together when they're in the same cities. And so everybody having that understanding of what family is about. And I would say that, you know, when this all comes to end, that next to winning the World Series, that'll be our greatest accomplishment, is that everybody's families are still well and thriving, and our kids are great kids, and it's something that we should all be very proud of at the end of the day.
Yeah. And it brings it back to relationships and the relationships you make, whether they be professional relationships or you become friends with these people and they're lifelong friends that you have.
No question. And I still have, I call my mentors once a week. I've got a lot of guys that were, you know, pillars of the game and rock stars and general managers and accomplished everything and won world championships. And they're on the backside of their careers at home, retired with their families. And I never want to lose that perspective. I'm always calling Bill Wood and calling Les Parker and Dean Taylor and Dan O'Brien and speaking to them, because I don't want to lose that perspective that this is all coming for all of us one day. And so, you know, we're all borrowing the game, so let's pour into each other and do the best we can to help accomplish a goal of winning a world championship, but also impacting Kansas City and its fans and its wonderful fan base.
It's so much bigger than baseball, isn't it?
So much bigger. That was one of the things for me about 5 years in. I was like, there has to be more to this for me, and started, you know, pouring into Austin RBI and Coach for Kids and Rock the Red Kettle and doing charities around the Austin area and just impacting lives every day that you can.
Was that always something that you knew would be important to you? I'm going to give back in this way or that way?
No, I think it's kind of been organic. I mean, the Rock the Red Kettle we did in Austin was basically, my son was visiting UT on a baseball visit, and there were some homeless people under a bridge, and he's like, Dad, we got to do something about this. And we reached out to a radio station and got that event going, and it's been successful. And so I think it's kind of organic, and we're presented every day with opportunities to help charities and try to do the best we can.
Yeah, we got to help people out. We're all one. Like, we're all in the ecosystem together. It's all of us here together.
That's it.
Is there someone along your path that gave you an opportunity that maybe you didn't deserve it, or they just believed in you and saw something in you that you couldn't see for yourself? Is there someone along your path that's done that for you?
Well, Eddie Epstein was the one that gave me my first opportunity in the game. I mean, I had coached a little bit and been an associate scout a little bit, but he gave me my first launch. And then Dan Jennings saved me. Dan Jennings works for the Washington National now. He managed the Miami Marlins and was my boss in Miami. And I'm probably out of baseball if it wasn't for him. And certainly everybody knows the impact that Dayton Moore's had on my life. And being able to come here and achieve the ultimate goal of winning a world championship was huge. And J.J. Piccolo's been a great brother and mentor and inspiration to me, and I'm looking forward to pulling the rope for him and doing it again.
Yeah. And we talk about the relationships within our organization, but how important is relationships in the outside organizations? Because you're talking about guys that might be on our squad someday. So not only within the Royals, but outside, you got to have those relationships.
Yeah, I have dinners booked out probably for the next 3 weeks already from other organizations.
Dang, I can't get on your schedule.
Yes, and it's like, you know, my wife, we're driving this week and everybody's calling, when are you arriving? I'm Monday night. Okay, well, let's do dinner Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I'm saying the same restaurant to every person from every organization. That's, and I just said that to Q a while ago. I said, you know, my job's kind of slow until the games get going. And so once the games get going, now it's 1,000 miles an hour because there's 2 games a day here and you're talking to your scouts in Florida. So it's a little bit of the calm before the storm. So I definitely I reached out to Jerry DiPoto, the president of the Mariners this morning, and I said, hey, let me know when dinner is. So that's a really big part. And those relationships mean the world to me.
Yes. And you're checking in on them because you care about them as people, but also you're doing a little business too. I mean, you're staying in the know at communicating, having those open relationships where you're talking and conversing.
Well, and those kind of organic conversations can lead to big deals. And the night that we did the James Shields Wade Davis deal, all day long I had been communicating with Rocco Baldelli about, hey, let's get together tonight and have a drink. And it ended up happening. We met in the lobby at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm in my pajamas and in the hallway and we're talking and we basically kind of, okay, these are the 4 names. Don't ask for anybody else. Don't dig on anybody else. And that's kind of was the last little step of the Shields and Davis deal.
That all happened while you were sitting in your PJs?
Oh yeah, I had royal blue flannels and a T-shirt on in the lobby of the Opryland Hotel. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what a moment in time. And those are the things that people don't, that's not going to make the news. You know, how these things come about isn't going to make the news. They're just going to see that it happened.
Right.
But the people back there pulling the strings or laying the groundwork for these to happen.
Art without an audience.
So much, and it takes so much time.
Yeah. It's art without an audience.
Yes.
And it's so many of these you can literally be sitting at a game and watching a player and going, you know what, I wonder if, Drew Butera, we got him in May of 15. He caught the last out of the World Series and he had been DFA'd and I was in Oakland and it was literally, it took 15 minutes. Call Dayton. Hey, we can get Butera. What do they want? Call JJ. We have a shortstop. Yeah. And that deal was done in 15 minutes and he catches the last out of the World Series.
That's crazy.
It literally moves that fast in Major League Baseball.
Is there times when you think you got something, a good trade or something good going on someone and it comes to a screeching halt? Because you've said, some good ones that have turned out, but there's also times when you're like, this is a done deal, and then it ends up not being a done deal.
Absolutely. And there's some times where you think you have a deal, let's say, February of 2023, and it could be July of 25 before it gets done.
Yeah.
But you're constantly having those conversations and tracking. I mean, Jorge Soler, we were way out in front of him, watching him in spring training here years before we acquired him for Wade Davis. So you're constantly creating those targets of guys that you think can fit and come in and not only help our major league team, but fit in with the city of Kansas City, because the connection between the team and the fan base is so strong, and fit into who we are as an organization.
Sometimes we'll get a trade will come through or something, and we'll have an interview, and one of the execs will talk about the trade, and they'll be like, yeah, we've been watching this person for 4, even Drew Waters, when Drew was traded, and JJ came out and was like, yeah, we've had our eye on Drew for 4 years, and I'm like, I'm sitting there like, has he really? Like, there's so many people.
Do.
I know, it's crazy, because I always think that's like a throwaway thing. Like, of course, we've been watching everyone. But, that there really is so many eyes and ears out there that you really have been watching him for several years.
And a guy that may not fit right now could fit a month from now or 6 months from now or a year from now. And you just have to stay on top of the information with every player. Yeah.
So when you have, information or thoughts you have to process through, does your wife, is she privy to that? Or is that stuff that is top secret?
My wife could write the book like no other book in baseball. And she stays on top of it. Like, she'll call me on things and watch games, and she's pretty sharp with and my daughter also, she worked in baseball. And so I have 2 girls that had they stayed in the game of baseball, the sky is the limit. As my wife would have probably been a VP of ticket sales for a major league team. And my daughter, ran a ticket office at 17 years old in Round Rock, Texas. And they're very locked in to Major League Baseball. On
I love that. Let's get her on staff. Do we have
doubt. I would love it. I would love it.
That's amazing. I was going to say, I feel like you either need a wife who doesn't care and it's in one ear out the other, but they're a good listener, or you need a wife that, like yours, like you said, that is like right there with you, like taking the information in, listening to you, calling you on things, being like, well, what do you do? Things
my wife could have done way better than me. I promise you that.
I love that.
She could have done way better than me. So, like I told you earlier, I'm a very competitive person. I compete for her every day.
Oh my gosh, I love that. You guys, I'm going to cry. Yeah. That's beautiful. What are some of the other things about your career that people wouldn't guess? I know there's a lot on a day-to-day that you guys do, but there's probably a lot that doesn't get talked about or doesn't get shown. Walk us through like a day in the life of a scout.
Well, that is absolutely the greatest thing about my job is you wake up and you just don't know who you're going to meet at the ballpark that day. I mean, I've literally, I like to get to the ballpark early, and I'll sit in the press room and talk to the media and try to get information. And then, Tom Hanks will walk in.
What?
And,
the actor?
And you're getting a selfie. I'm a real big, picture with celebrities.
Yes.
Business cards and pictures with celebrities. So, and I've met a lot of them. Sitting behind home plate of playoff games, you could literally be sitting there at Yankee Stadium and Robin Williams is one row in front of you. I mean, it's crazy. So that is the greatest part is like, I love to meet people.
Yeah.
And you go to the ballpark and you just don't know who you're going to meet that day or what's going to happen at the ballpark that day. That's the funnest part.
Yeah. Every day's an adventure. You never know. Is that hard to balance that all? I mean, sometimes you're traveling so much. You're in different cities. Or you like, sometimes you don't know where you are. You don't know what you're doing. Yeah. You're like, what time zone am I in?
No, I will sometimes wake up and walk right into the wall thinking I'm in my last hotel room. Or I'll go to room 724 and I'm in 518. 24 was 2 cities ago.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a lot of that.
Are you a pro traveler? Do you have any like travel tips? Like, can you pack a suitcase like no one's business?
No, I have a lot. I'm a big carry-on guy. I get criticized for the amount of luggage I travel with, but
hey,
I got my boots and jeans, and I usually wear a cowboy hat, and so.
Do you really?
Oh yeah.
I've never seen you with the cowboy hat.
I'm a big cowboy hat guy, and that's the one thing I've always tried to do is stay true to myself and who I was growing up, and not let that get too far away from me.
You're a Texas guy.
Texas guy all the way.
And you got your boots.
I got my Lucchese's on today.
You never go anywhere without them. Don't they get a little hot and sticky?
No.
Really?
No. Never. Love my Lucchese's.
Wow. I love that. And I love being true to yourself and just being who you are. Can you talk to us some about that throughout your career? I'm sure it's been, tempting to be this guy or be that guy or this, someone has something that's working really good for them in what they're doing. It's tempting to be like, well, I should do that. It's working for him.
Yeah.
Has that happened?
I've tried it. It don't work.
It don't work.
Yeah. I've tried to, early on, especially in my career, I tried to like be the guy that the perception image, and it doesn't work for me. I got to be myself. And in our lives we're always going to have critics, and so if you're going to have critics anyway, just be true to yourself and be yourself. And pour everything you can into the people around you and your job, and lead and hold people accountable. And I'm a servant guy. I don't ask our guys to do anything that I wouldn't do, but most importantly, that it just being true to yourself. And because when you put your pillow on you put your head on the pillow at the end of the night, you got to know that you did the very best you can for your family, your organization, but most importantly that you were true to yourself in everything that you did.
You mentioned being a leader. Can you tell us some of the qualities that you value in a leader and some of those qualities that you try and have as a leader now? Yeah,
I mean, the big one for me is I would never ask one of my scouts, our scouts, to do something that I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
I think that's a real big thing in scouting. It's because it's so subjective and you have so much information that it can easily be thought that you can just sit back and read about the player and know the player, and that's not always the case. You have to have a track record with the player and watch him and know his personal habits and what's his lifestyle off the field. And I tend to, on the road, try to gravitate to the restaurants and where players are, because you can find out a lot. And I love players. I love their stories. The 2% chance of playing pro ball and then to get to, it's a miracle to play in the big leagues one day. And so I just have so much admiration and respect for players that I love their stories, and they've all been through so much adversity to get to where they are. And so that's one of the things is just having a love for players, leading by example, being a servant leader, and understanding that, our scouts are human beings and they have families and needs, and it's just being for them and helping them be the best that they can be at their jobs.
Yeah. You mentioned the players and getting to know them, and that's so important for what you're doing with your job. But there's a human aspect there too. You love stories. I love storytelling. So I'm that way too. I meet someone on the bus and I want to talk to them. Yeah. In fact, my husband always teases me. He's like, can we go anywhere without you trying to have a deep conversation with someone? And I'm like, no, that's me. So you get to know them as people, and that's valuable. And there's a human element to the business that can probably sometimes be hard to kind of juggle that. The fact that you really care about these people and you want to see good things for them, but there's also baseball's a business.
Yeah, and that's from the first time we ever put a uniform on at 6-7 years old. The thing that you get immune to in the very beginning is change, because you're constantly playing for different teams, different coaches, different teammates, different cities, different everything. And so the only thing that I say to myself every day, if change hasn't happened, it's coming tomorrow. And so you know that, this is a business, and it's the major leagues, and it's a jungle. And so, but I tell every one of our players, and I talk to a lot of our ex-players all the time, once a Royal, always a Royal. And so those relationships are everlasting. And I see a lot of the guys from the 15 team on the road and we have a moment, and I see guys that we released in A-ball and we have a moment. So it's as long as they know that you genuinely care about them as people, and that's something that we pride ourselves on as an organization, because we all have sons that played the game, and you want to treat them like they're your sons, and you always want to see the game through their eyes. And if you can do that, at the end of the day, they're going to respect you for the way you treated them in the end.
I want to hear some about how you balance the potential of a player compared to what they're actually showing you, because I'm sure that could be tricky, and how you put that together. I know there's always lists and scouting reports and things like that, but there sometimes is like that thing you can't quantify, and you're like, there's a lot of potential there. I don't know what it is, but there is something. How do you get that across? How do you talk to the group about that?
Well, you're evaluating the 5 tools: hit for power, run, field, and throw.
Yep.
And you rank those tools in order by position around the diamond. But then you're looking at something, that a little adjustment that might take place with the player that can make him better. And those go into the scouting reports, as well as the data and the analytics, especially with pitching, and the information that we have now with pitching on pitch shape and pitch design, targeting, pitch sequencing, more on the pitching side than the position player side. But it's just looking at the player, and age for level is a big deal.
Okay.
What level are they playing at for the age, and trying to envision, what the ceiling of that player is, what we can do to make him better. But also, like, if you look around the league, there's 1,000 examples of guys that were in one place that it just wasn't working.
Yep.
It was ballpark, it was lineup, they were asking him to do something in pitch sequencing or on the rubber, that you recognize those things and you say, hey, if we can do this, we can make them better. And that's, being a small market team, that's really the beauty of my position, is trying to find that buy low guy and other organizations that will come over and with our structure and our information and our people and our culture, giving them a chance to ultimately reach their ultimate ceiling in the game.
Is there a story that you have where you saw someone from a young age and you were like, that person's got it, and they made it? You were right. And I'm sure for every one of those, there's ones where
for every one of those,
Yeah.
there's 1,000 misses.
Yes.
And anybody that tells you different, you got to like players.
Yeah.
Because you can say nobody can play, and you're
Yeah.
going to be right 95% of the time. But
So true.
you have to like players and dream on players, and so that the Rule 5 draft is something that we really, as an organization, have had a lot of success with, and we take a lot of pride in it. And those are always fun, to draft those guys out of A-ball or AA and bring them here and them have success. And it's a lot of people's work. It's the vision of the scout. It's Daniel Mack and his information that he has from a data standpoint. It's the coaches and their vision. It's making the player feel comfortable about where they are in the organization, in the city. And like with Drew last year, I mean, before he got off the plane in Kansas City, he knew everything about Jeff Davenport, our coaching staff, his teammates, the media, where to eat, the restaurants to go to, he had all the information, so that when he arrives in Kansas City, there's a level of comfort and, okay, now I can focus on being the best
can just
baseball.
play.
And that's an important thing.
Yeah, it's so important, making sure that their family knows is comfortable and secure and happy to be there, and everyone's excited. And especially someone like Drew, who's making his big league debut, that stuff is important. And to not have to worry about those tangible things, he can just go out on the field,
Right.
hit the ball, be a star in center field.
Right.
That's really what matters most, and what we all want for these guys. But you're right, there's so many things going on in their heads. They're trying to be sons, brothers, husbands, boyfriends, things like that, outside of it, and then go on the field and do all this other stuff. And
That's
you
right.
also have to add that into the equation, that we're all human, and there's
That's right.
emotions and feelings that go along with that.
That's right. But
And-
making the player comfortable and showing them that you believe them is ultimately our goal.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have any fun stories from the World Series teams you've been able to be a part
Oh
of?
my gosh. 2003, I could write a book on that whole, the Bartman game. We had checked out of our hotel in Boston, and Bartman reaches over and gets the ball in the NLCS against the Cubs, and we had to check back into our hotel, drive to New York. I mean, we had a guy on a subway, we're down 3-1, tell us we're going to win. I mean, the 14 and 15 team, it was just, to me, it's just one big story. And the thing that I'll never forget is just the connection between those players and our fan base, and the tickets given away at restaurants, and families that had never gotten to go to a game, and the people in my life that, like, became Royals fans automatically and are coming to games and flying up to games. And the Houston game in 15, the ground ball, Correa, my family, I said, hey, go check out, our season's over.
Yeah.
They weren't even there for the comeback. So just a lot of like very unique things that, but ultimately the parade and just that day and the fans, and to see, because, I went to work for the Royals in 06, but I started covering them in 97. And just to see that progression to get to that day and that parade was truly amazing. And we're working every minute of every day to try to do it again.
You've worked for other organizations, been, around the league. Why is KC special?
Well, the fans, for one, they're so passionate about this team. And I've never been anywhere, and this is my 6th organization, where the fans connect so much with the team and the players. And I think it's because the city plays so small, and our players, when they're out, they're visible and they're kind, and we tell them, be kind to our fans and because interact with them. And I mean, I think everybody knows the stories about Power and Light in 2015. That was insane. But that, and just it's just how much family means to a city like Kansas City. And I share in John Sherman's vision of trying to build this up to be a championship organization again, and JJ Piccolo's vision. It's hard to put a pencil to it, but it's just the most special place. Like I commute to Kansas City from Austin in the wintertime every other week, and so I'm at the plaza, I'm in the restaurants, I'm in the hotels talking to fans, and they're just so passionate about the baseball team. It's amazing.
It's a fun city, isn't it?
It really is.
I really, I attribute it's Midwest nice. I think that is really what does it for me. The people are kind, they're hardworking, but they like good beer, good food, good art, good sports.
Right.
And you can't help but feel embraced by that. So that's what it is for me. But it's really great to hear that from, outsider's perspective as well, someone who's from the South. That all translates. I think we can all say as Kansas Cityans, we're proud of that.
Yeah, I told everybody I chose the plaza over the beach in Anaheim. So.
Oh, there you go. That's a big statement there. I don't know. The beach sounds pretty good right around this time of year. But I want to hear some about, you had mentioned Bobby Witt Sr., and so you've probably known Bobby Witt Jr. known of him, for a long time.
Yeah, my wife was their nanny for the daughters, for their older girls.
How weird is that, or how cool is it?
It's amazing. Weird. Yeah. It's amazing. And the first time I met Bobby Jr. was in the hotel in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He was 12, playing in a tournament, and I walk in, and there's Senior, and he introduced me to his kid who was playing with my son's high school coach's son in Dallas, and everybody, this guy can play. Every airport and hotel lobby, this guy can play. And then you see him and you're like, wow, this guy can really play.
Yeah.
And then, I saw him 3 games a senior. He actually beat our hometown high school in the state championship game. But more than the God-given ability that he was given, it's just the incredible human being that he is.
Yes.
He is such a humble, well-mannered, our fans in Kansas City are just going to love this kid.
They do already, but it gets even better.
Yeah, and it comes from a tremendous upbringing. His mom and dad were wonderful. His sisters were a strong support base, and just the perfect role models as a baseball family that helped a young man reach his ceiling. Did you work some of those into your scouting reports of him? How much the pedigree, but also knowing Bobby Sr. and knowing how he raised his kids. Do you work that into your scouting? 100%. Yeah, bloodlines is everything. Yeah. And even Patrick Mahomes out of high school. He was a Kyler Murray was a baseball guy. Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, saw all those guys in high school, and most of the time. That little edge is not the God-given ability that the player is given. It's literally the car rides home and to the stadium, and the time away from the game where you can continually mold the player and shape them into, the mindset of not just on field, but the total package of caring for your fan base, caring for your teammates, understanding that there's a balance to all this, and managing it is such an important part of it because it's so much more than just the game at 705. Yeah. No, 100%. Did you scout Mahomes? What do you got on him? Saw him in high school. Oh yeah, he was 90, 93. Good. He was a pitcher. Ball. Yeah, his dad pitched for the Rangers. Yeah. No, I knew that, but I wasn't sure. And that's Baker, Kyler, Pat Mahomes were all Drew Brees. I saw in high school. He was those were all guys that could have gone the baseball route that went the football route. Yeah.
Gosh, must be nice. Especially like
to be that talented.
Yeah, Kyler was a first-round draft pick too. So I mean, it's just crazy. And there's always I remember when he was making that decision. There's always like, oh, what should you go with, the guaranteed money or whatever it is? But
1 game a week, no minor league system.
Yes,
100,000 people in the stands.
Must be nice. Yeah. Now you were a part of some of the USA baseball selection teams.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest honors of my life. Ed Lynch, former general manager of the Cubs, had asked me to be a part of it early on, 2008, and we built out some of the early WBC teams and the World Cup. We won the gold medal in the World Cup. We got a beautiful ring. The Olympics, we got a beautiful ring. One of the greatest honors was basically putting the team together for the last team to qualify for the Olympics, and just I come from a military law enforcement family, so to be a part of something with your country on it just meant so much to me. And it's amazing how different it is for the players when they're wearing those colors.
Yeah.
And it's a different vibe, it's a different feel, and it's truly one of the greatest experiences of my life.
Yeah, even when we just have the special uniforms for 4th of July or Veterans Day or something like that, or Armed Services Day, whatever it is, that it's a different feel to it as well. When you have those jerseys or the special hats or whatever.
It really is. And we have the World Baseball Classic going on right now, this year, and so it's a different level of competition, a different level of pride when you're playing for your country, and it's really about playing for your country, and it's hard to describe.
Yeah, it really is. What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
What I said earlier, really just be yourself, be true to yourself. Don't try to be something that you're not. Don't try to be somebody else, because, no matter what we do, success or failure, we're going to have critics and we're going to have praisers, and you just want to be yourself. I constantly keep my eye on the end game in life, and when it's all said and done, I just want people to know that I truly cared about people and wanted everybody to be successful, and because we're all borrowing this game. It's a vehicle that you can use to impact so many people's lives, and you have a chance to do it every day. And so that would be it. Just be true to yourself and don't try to be somebody else, and it's either going to work for you or it's not.
But something else will work then.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. All right, let's get to our lightning round.
Oh my gosh.
I'm excited for you in this. All right, you go to a lot of stadiums, stadium, ballpark food. What are you going for?
Oh, I'm a big hot dog guy at Wrigley Field.
Oh, specifically at Wrigley Field?
I grew up a Cub fan. So.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I'm sorry for that for you. Favorite kind of donut or best donut place?
Round Rock Donuts, Round Rock, Texas.
Oh, wow.
Not even close.
He's got specifics here. What is the most memorable bat crack you've ever heard?
That would be Gary Sheffield of the Florida Marlins and Bo Jackson. And when Bo Jackson would swing it at BP in the early 90s in Arlington, it was unbelievable to sit by the cage. Jose Canseco, another one, Mark McGuire, just deafening sounds when the ball came off the bat.
It's probably just burned into your memory, isn't it? Yeah. I love that. Jealous. What is your most iconic baseball memory?
It would be May 1st, 1991. I was a clubhouse attendant for the Rangers, and being in the dugout for Nolan Ryan's 7th no-hitter.
Wow.
Was one of the greatest nights ever. And it's so funny because my roommates, I had 4 tickets, and in the 5th inning, I kept texting them or calling them on the phone going, hey, he's got a no-hitter through 5. Nah, we're not coming. He's got a no-hitter.
You're jinxing him.
So it got to the 8th. It got to the 8th, and they're like, no, we're not coming. So then they wanted the tickets after the fact, and I wouldn't give them to them. So, but just an amazing night.
You reserved that right. I think it's good you didn't give it to him. How did you get the nickname Snacks?
Oh, my gosh. Who gave you that
I
one?
cannot reveal my sources.
So we were playing Central Missouri, which I think was Missouri State at the time, and down in the bullpen, we would always have food for the doubleheader on Saturdays, and I had a Snickers bar, and we had those white Dodger uniforms, or really the Royal white, same thing, and our starting pitcher got hit in between the eyes like the 3rd pitch of the game, and so I had to go in, and they said, hey, get up, get hot, and I had just cracked a Snickers bar, and I put it in my back pocket, and I'm out, and it's like 98 degrees, and the Snickers bar is melting in my back pocket, and my catcher comes out in the middle of the inning. He's like, hey, man, are you okay? And I'm like, why? He goes, because you got something in your pocket and that Snickers bar had melted. And so it was Snickers for about 3 days and it turned into snacks, and the rest is history.
Is there a player that is the one that got away?
Oh, man, there's a bunch.
There is.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah.
there's a lot. That'd be too many to even count because, first of all, there's where you pick in the draft and does the player fit. But yeah, there have been. It'd be too many to even name one. It's a hard. Everybody's got them. So, but
The movie Moneyball. Have you seen it?
I love the movie.
Okay, so real or fairy tale?
A lot of it is real. Some of it's fairy tale. I think they did an incredible job of Billy. They did. I love Billy. Billy's great. He's a good baseball guy. JJ and I actually got to spend time with him last year at the GM meetings, and he referenced the movie like we didn't know what it was. I did this movie back in the, we're like, we know.
Yeah.
But I do. There's something soothing about it. One, to be inside the game like that on decisions, to see those old players constantly coming up in the movie. That was the early years of my scouting career, and I think it's a great movie. I think it doesn't depict everything that goes into building a team, but it certainly exemplified what they were trying to do as an organization.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Sometimes you never know.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah,
I'm going to watch it with a keener eye this time.
I like it a lot.
Well, that was a heck of a lot of fun. Gene, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. It was a blast.
With
really
us today.
enjoyed it.
I really mean it. You are sunshine personified, and I think that you are such a gift to this organization in your professional things, but as a person too.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the organization. Thank you for spending some time with me and the fans. We love it so much. We're ready for baseball in 2023. Are you?
Yes, ma'am. Let's roll.
All right, let's get it going. Before we leave, I got to remind you to subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's going to be fun. There's a lot of really awesome episodes coming out, and you're going to want to be ready for them. So hang tight, and we'll see you very soon.